Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedalship Project. The Pedalship Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle, from tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net, and check Pedalshift out also on all the socials as well.
Good morning. Day 3, a 0 mile day. I don't take 0 mile days very often. I'm already going a little crazy and it's only 9:24 a.m. It is weird, even though I love this place, to not be packing up and getting out by now. It's very strange. So here's where we're at. Oh, by the way, I'm standing. They have changed the hiker-biker camp here over the last few years, and where I'm standing is actually, I think, the very first camp spot that MJ and I stayed at when it was back here more towards the bathrooms. So it's a little historic, a little nice. So I've done some digging, not literally, metaphorically, to try to figure out what my options are, and there is a mysterious missing link of a bus between Florence, Oregon, where the next campground is, roughly, and North Bend, which is where the one after that is. Unfortunately, it seems to be a bit of a mystery. Bus drivers insist that it exists. I can't ever find it. And I was just talking with one of the Park Service volunteers, the state park volunteer here, and she was saying that it's a little sketchy. So I can't rely on sketchy. So here's sort of where I'm at the moment. And I'll probably do some more research as the 0 mile day commences, even more than it is right now. So the first thing is tomorrow morning. I've got to get there. I've got to be first. And hopefully folks at Bike Newport will smile upon me and allow me the opportunity to maybe jump the line a little bit. Because, and hopefully, this may just be as simple as taking off my chain, putting on a new chain, boom, you're done, kid. And that would be amazing. Then things get kind of interesting. I'm looking at, sorry for the noise. Being somebody who's used to having aircraft fly over me frequently in the District of Columbia, even that was a little low for me. It was also a much bigger plane. Anyways, so let's say that the bike is fixed quickly, efficiently, and I have them crack my pedals too, just to make it easier since I'm there. Just get everything kind of set, and everything is hunky-dory. My bike gives me full peace of mind. I can ride it as hard as I need to for the rest of the trip. That's great. What time is it? Yeah, that's gonna really impact a lot of things. Unfortunately, with them opening at 10, the likelihood of them fixing my bike and getting me out the door to make a 10:20 bus is close to zero. So I'm not looking at that as a possibility. There is an early afternoon bus that takes me from Newport down through, I should start here by saying this. The section of the trip that I would most like to fast forward is basically the section around not from here to Yahat so much, basically between here and Reedsport / North Bend is probably arguably the least interesting. It's still amazing, but it's probably the part of the coast that is the most skippable. Unfortunately, it's the part of the coast that has no bus service or sketchy bus service for a big chunk of it. So the ability to fast forward this section is tricky. So that's what I'm going to try to do, though, and I think that the answer will end up being that I can do a piece of it as a fast forward today, and then I'm going to have to sacrifice a small piece on one of the other days when there is more robust service from Curry County Transit. This has become, I know, mostly a podcast about buses, but here we are. So the plan, as I see it right now, is get the bike fixed and then take a look at the time. If it's hours and hours and hours until the next bus, I could conceivably ride some of it and pick up the bus later on down the line. Probably not my first choice. I think that what I would like to do is to do my riding on the other side of the bus situation. So if memory serves, it's a twofer here. You got to take a bus from Newport to Yachats, cute little town, and then from Yachats to Florence. So I could essentially fast forward an entire day's worth of riding, which is good because I need that. So then the choice would be either camp there and still really be a day behind, because today I should end up in Florence. So I still need to make up some more ground. I'm not doing anything that I couldn't just ride and do. So what do I need to do? Okay, I either need to take more buses or I need to ride. And so what I was seeing is that there is Tugman State Park, which is another opportunity, which is further down the coast, but it is within rideable distance from Florence to there. And that puts me about 20 miles or so north of where I would be for the night if I had stayed on schedule, give or take. It's actually 20 miles to the town, and then it's probably another 10 miles there. It's probably 30 miles away from the campground, but the campground is actually you go out and then you come back. It's good old Sunset Bay. So the irony of all of this, after me talking about, maybe I'm going to find a way to skip Sunset Bay, I may be skipping Sunset Bay. So what would happen is that I go to Tugman tomorrow night and be rolling in much later than I normally do, but before sun's set. Stay there, get up the next morning, and then just start riding. Get up and over the Seven Devils, get into Bandon, and then kind of assess from there. Because what I could do is ride to any of the next bunch of towns where Curry County Transit bus service is and take it, basically skip me up so that I can get to Port Orford by in time to grab some groceries and then end up at Humbug Mountain, and I would be exactly on schedule there. So, and that would allow me to do the last day of riding from Humbug Mountain all the way to Brookings. There are other options available to me, including that I just keep riding and riding and riding, and then on the last day, on Thursday, I do the fast forward. But that's kind of one of the best parts of the coast for riding. So I'm inclined to this kind of like start and stop kind of a thing. I've been doing it all week anyways, so why not try that again and save the best for last and allow myself to roll into Brookings rather than to get a ride into Brookings. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm hopeful that tomorrow goes really well with the bike repair. I am mindful of the fact that there could be something where, as I mentioned earlier, I think on last week's pod, that the chain could be a symptom rather than a cause. And if it's a symptom, then things get more interesting. Do I throw, $150 at this bike just for this trip? I think the answer is yes. It's unfortunate if that were the case. If there were something truly wrong with the gearing, worn teeth or something, that's what created the problem with the chain. But I'm gonna let the folks at the shop tell me, and that's really the big reason why I'm waiting. I wanted to thank everybody who hopped on and to Instagram and elsewhere for comments on ideas on how to fix that twisted link, including but not limited to, using my chain breaker and reattaching it and putting it at a 90-degree angle and twisting it back. I think that all of those things are in the realm of possible, but I do think that it's already gotten to the point where it's in my head. This bike, don't forget, sat in a garage for the better part of 2 years because of COVID and didn't get any kind of maintenance. And I think that there's something that's a little bit wrong with it. The one thing that's in my head the most about it, though, is, man, that thing rode just fine for a while. And then just got really bad towards the end of that first day. So that's the one thing that's giving me some kind of pause that this is going to be a simple fix. So we're just going to have to kind of see how this all goes. I am willing and ready to deviate from any plan to kind of stay out here on the coast as long as I can. If it ends up being that, they got to get parts or stuff like that, I'm just going to cross that bridge when I get to it. But when all is said and done, I have to end up in Seattle on Friday. That's the only thing. I have a flight out of Medford, but I don't necessarily need to go all the way to Medford. I may be able to figure something else out. This has been one of the more interesting bike tours, I have to say, for me personally, just because it is requiring all of my knowledge of the transit systems. It is, it's certainly, I'm certainly not putting a lot of miles on, but it's keeping me on my toes. So I hope this is at least somewhat interesting. But this is sort of like the wonderful nature of bicycle touring, that it's like, if you can't do the fix yourself, or you're concerned about doing the fix yourself, like I am, this chain currently functions. I worry that if I broke it, separated it, and tried to use the same pin to put it back in, because I do not have a fresh pin, a replacement pin, I'm concerned that it would break again while I rode, and then the usability of this thing goes way, way down. And if that happens south of here, I'm pretty hosed. So I would prefer to be a little more conservative with my my stance on all of this, and wait out the day, and then just see where it goes. Who knows? But worst case scenario, I get a full day here. I got the beach just over there. I'm at one of the great campgrounds on the entire Oregon coast. I got plenty of coffee. I got plenty of snacks. I'll probably go back to Brewers on the Bay for probably a late lunch / early dinner. Just do one big meal today, and go from there. And then I'll have some snacks for the morning, and off I go to the bike shop and adventure, and things will settle out from there. It's just really interesting, kind of thinking this like a chess match. It's sort of like I'm trying to think a few moves ahead for all of the things that could potentially happen. So, such is life, such is bike touring. There will be more, I'm sure, here on day 3. It's going to be a lot more about soundscapes. It's going to be a lot more about exploring this park and the options around here. We're probably going to go for a little walk. We're probably going to go out on the beach and hear the waves crashing. And so a lot less biking today, but a lot more just soaking it all in, which is kind of fun. Breaking news. I might have fixed it. I have 2 small adjustable crescent wrenches, and I was using one with my faux Leatherman, and I realized I had the second one, and I thought, I can just use these 2 to gently try to untwist the twisted link. And then I did it. And I just literally just now, and this is why I'm kind of breaking news to you right here, I just rode it around in a big wide circle and shifted gears, and it was flawless. So here's what I'm going to do. I've already paid for tonight. It's only $8. I could load up and go, and I could conceivably just go, and I'd get down to Florence late tonight. But I'm not 100% sure about that. So I'm going to think about this a little bit more. I think what I might do is go get some lunch, but I'll do that in a way that tests this bike out, and I'm going to shift it all over the map. I'm going to see if it works, and if it does, and if I feel confident, and this is a risk, of course, I may just go for it. Whether that's, do I do this today, or do I do some kind of a mini fast forward today? I don't know yet, but I should have done this 2 hours ago, but I went to the beach. I did some other stuff because I thought I needed to fix this. But when I bent it back, I got to the point where I couldn't really figure out where the link was that I just fixed. Well, maybe I can now. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. So I'm gonna give this a look, give this a ride, do some shifting in all the gears, and then kind of figure it out from there. It may be that it's still a good idea to wait tomorrow. I do have a lengthy set of fast forwards and things that I could do, but I also have the ability today/tonight to get down to Honeyman. And even though I will have wasted, quote unquote, $8 here, it was a pretty good hedge. All right. Who knows? Day 3 might turn into something. More to come. From the campsite again. I went to Brewers on the Bay for lunch, and I thought about it some more. And although the bike did behave close to 100%, there were a couple of times when that chain caught itself again. And when it catches itself, I think that's when there's the possibility of busting that chain. So I actually even got MJ on the line and texted it out with him a little bit. You know, when all was said and done, the plan that I have for tomorrow is pretty good. The fact that I could have ridden at about, would have taken me, half hour to pull things together. I could have ridden about 1 o'clock, could have been down potentially, if everything went well, in Florence in plenty of time before sunset. The fact that I could have done that was very tantalizing. That would have put me back on schedule, the original schedule. But as I accounted to MJ, I have ridden the Oregon coast before. It's not like I'm somebody who is coming out here and this is my only chance to do this and I need to ride every square inch. I've been looking forward to riding every square inch. Now, I've done this a few times, and to be honest, this right here, Newport, Oregon, is one of my favorite parts of the entire Oregon coast. So when you balance everything out, and although the bike is certainly riding much better, I wouldn't mind having the mechanics at Bike Newport take a look at this. I took a closer look also at all of the chain rings, and frankly, I think that they are just worn down, really worn down. And I'm going to just ask them straight up if they think that this is going to continue to be a problem, or if they think, you can probably get a couple 100 miles out of this. And if it's the latter, then I'll go for it. If they think this thing's unsafe, what happened was a natural outcome of how your gearing situation is right now, and they can fix it on the spot, then I'll probably take them up on that. Even though this is the retirement tour for this bike, safety first, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm really hopeful that they don't say the situation of this thing is not safe to ride and we don't have the parts. That's when things get a little bit tricky, as I've accounted before. It makes it so that I have to get serious about thinking, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want this week to go? Knowing that while sure I can edit certain elements of the travel plans, I do need to eventually end up in Seattle on Saturday and fly out from there. There might, and perhaps, I could always potentially change flights in other ways, shapes, or forms, but ultimately I do end up needing at the end of this week to fly back because, I have to. I have to. So, how is this week going to go? How will the rest of this tour look? I think that the bike is rideable, but is it fully safe? I think we're going to find out a lot more tomorrow. Certainly when an actual mechanic takes a look at it as opposed to me, the left-handed hack. I'm not really left-handed. That was denigrating to left-handed people. Sorry. My mom's left-handed. I'm cool with left-handed people. I have weird left-handed traits. This is an overshare. Sorry. Anyways, I drink with my left hand. Don't get your mind out of the gutter. Anyways, I think that I am going to be learning a lot more and seeing what has to be said. In the interim, I've also done a lot more, taking advantage of the tools here at the bike repair stand, which is really, really helpful. I thought that my pedals would be really frozen in, and they were not. So those should be very easy to remove. I actually even used a little bit of chain lubricant on the threads, which isn't really what you're supposed to do. You should use kind of a more grease-like type of a thing that could stand up to it. But for the next few days, I think that will be just fine, and that should make them quite easy to come off. I also put them on reasonably loosely. They're still hand tightened plus a touch more with the wrench, but those two little crescent wrenches that ended up fixing quote unquote the chain, or at least untwisting the chain a bunch, should be able to get those pedals off without too much hassle down in Brookings, which was definitely a goal of mine, and I won't have to ask the folks at Bike Newport to do the same. So interesting day. Feel good about kind of where the bike is at the moment, but not good enough to just kind of throw caution to the wind and keep rolling. I think that this is the right choice, although you never know. Tomorrow I may get the bike there and they'll be like, we can't find anything wrong with this. They won't say that, but let's say that they did. Then I'd be like, shoot, I should have gone yesterday. Anyways, that is the probably the last entry here on day 3, just because it's been a lot of talking about not riding and the mechanics of this bike. So I think maybe we'll just call it an episode here. I think that my big takeaway here today is it's really good to be flexible. It's really good to know that, whatever your trip gives you, you need to know that original plans are meant to be scuttled at times, and that you're riding a machine, and sometimes machines break. The other thing, another takeaway is maybe I should have thought a little bit more about hopping right on a bike that had been sitting in a garage for 2 years. Maybe I should have looked at it a little more first. More to come on that. Day 3 addendum. Look, I may be crazy. And this may end up being a cliffhanger. Unintentional, trust me. I'm not trying to do this for content, but yeah, I think I fixed the bike. I think it's fixed. I briefly, because it is, what time is it right now? 4:12. There is a 5:30 bus that could connect me down to Florence in 2 shots by 7:30 p.m. Briefly considered that. More than briefly. I went through my head a lot about, is this really fixed? I have ridden more miles in this campground than you can possibly shake a stick at. Trying to make the chain do bad things. It is shifting like butter now. I can barely figure out which of the links was twisted, although I can still find it. And I did some good chain cleaning. I even lubricated the components of the reverse sprung widgeridoo thing, which is probably a bad idea, but I did it anyways. I think I'm gonna skip the bike shop. Is this a terrible idea? It is a terrible idea if I have a catastrophic failure that results in injury. Of course, I don't expect that. It would be a catastrophe if the bike breaks down in an untenable way before North Bend. Although I do have something that can help me out on that, and I'll mention that in a moment. And the reason why is, once I hit North Bend, every single major town from there on through, I've got a bus option. So if I can get to North Bend, it doesn't matter really what ends up happening. Of course, if the bike breaks down miles and miles between towns, things are problematic. But let me go back to the thing that I talked about before. I am a member of the Better Auto Club or Better Something Club, Better Planet Club. Basically, it's AAA without the garbage. It's AAA without the horrible lobbying that they do that basically takes away money from transit and from bicycling infrastructure. They are awful. Don't get me started. But this other one, based out of Portland, Oregon, it's land of sunshine and bunnies, they give you all of the benefits, including bicycle roadside assistance. So, assuming I can get a cell phone signal if something catastrophic happens, I am able to get a lift to wherever I need to go to, bike shop or otherwise, from the tow truck driver that will be more than amused at picking up somebody on a bicycle. Anyways, so that's an option for me, which could get me to a town, which could get me to the bus, which could get me out of any kind of a jam. And that's true anywhere on the coast here. So that has helped convince me that I'm not in a place where like I'm in the middle of the Gobi Desert and I have no method of getting a rescue. I have that. So where does that leave me? I am going to do another big multi-mile test of this. And by the way, I've been shifting through all manner of gears, all the way down to my lowest, most climby gear, all the way up to my highest one. And I'm definitely learned where the bike's kind of sweet spots are for each of the front chain rings. It's narrower than I even talked about before, and I've figured out where I need to be for each one. And the bike lets me know. I start hearing some rattling. It's a very finicky setup. Probably should not be a triple in front, but that's for another day. It probably should be a double. But anyways, point being, I'm going to test it out one more time. I'm going to go get dinner. By the way, yes, I have abandoned the idea of doing the 5:30 bus. It's just too much too fast. Allows me to sleep on things as well. So, and of course, gives me another option that if the bike shop is a necessary thing, then I will go to the bike shop. That's still in the potential cards. So tonight, I'm going to go back to Brewers on the Bay. Even though I'm still full from lunch, I'll probably do it towards their closing time rather than earlier. And I am going to make sure that I feel satisfied with the shifting of this bike. And if I do, then tomorrow morning there is about a 10:30 a.m. bus from down here. I don't even have to go back into Newport if I don't want to. It would leave at 10:20 if I go into Newport to grab breakfast, which I could conceivably do. And I could run into the bike shop, grab an 8-speed chain, and just be like, thanks, see you later. Maybe even a mirror. I would have enough time to do that. Don't you love how I talk out loud and come up with these plans? And sometimes within a few minutes from you hearing me say these plans, I change my mind. This is what I do. In any event, so that would be a possibility if I got out of here super early, went into Newport, grabbed breakfast, went to the bike shop at crack of 10 a.m., grabbed the spare chain just to be on the safe side. All right, liking this. Rushed over to City Hall, grabbed the 10:20 a.m. bus, grabbed the connecting bus in Yachats, which I would not be able to see much of Yachats, which is a shame. But then I would be in Florence at a little bit after 12:15, if memory serves. Then I ride my day, and I end up in North Bend about 60 miles later, 50 miles later. And then if I'm still feeling it, go to Sunset Bay, which is the usual stop, or find out alternative accommodations if I so choose, which would be for another podcast episode for you to be listening to later. Is this crazy? It's crazy. It's a little crazy. But I'm going to pat myself a little on the back for being able to figure out how to twist the weird link back into place and to kind of sit there and just test and test and test and feel somewhat comfortable that this is working. And I got 2 nights in Newport out of it. Okay. Fair enough. Day 3. Definitely a weird roller coaster of a day, and more to come.
And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lien, Andrew MacGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrance Manson, Harry Telgadas, Chris Barron, Mark Van Raam, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LoGreco, Cody Floerchinger, Tom Benenati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollack, Joseph Quinn, Byron Paterson, Joachim Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Avilés-Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Goffman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Piroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Letko, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCulloch, John Hickman, Jack Smith, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Dave Fletcher, James Stratakis, David Neves, Mike Lazewski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponseller, Chad Reno, Daniel Greger, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, and Darren McKibben. And thanks also to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.